Hello,
I'm Olivia.
I'm Madalyne.
This is our very first episode of another picture show podcast.
I know, I feel so bashful.
And our plan here is to review movies that either Madalyne hasn't seen, or movies that I haven't seen, or just movies that we want to watch together and talk about. We don't have any strict rules here, but the only rule that we do have is that Madalyne is not going to know what movie we will be watching this week. I will tell her what movie we'll be watching, and then we'll go watch it and come back and give our fresh takes on whatever movie we just saw. So this week, we are going to be reviewing Twilight.
Oh, yes. Man, throwback of the ages.
I know.
That was the only unhealthy obsession I had as a youth was Twilight.
Yeah, you read the books, right?
I did read all the books, and full disclosure, I have seen the Twilight movie, but I haven't seen it since it came out in 2008, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been 12 years since I've seen it.
So the last time you saw the first movie, Twilight, was when it came out.
Yes, and I'd been talking to my mom once upon a time about Twilight, and she said that when she took us to see it, I can't remember this event, but she told me, she was like you made us, me and my friend and both the moms, we made our moms sit away from us because we were the cool kids going to see Twilight unsupervised, gigantic air quotes.
Wow.
And she said when she was watching it, she was like, how is this marketed for children when all of the couples in this theater are definitely gonna go home and get their freak on? She was like, there's so much sexual tension in that movie, it's unbelievable. And I don't remember there being sexual tension because I was just so stoked for vampires and Jacob and all that stuff.
I was very aware of the sexual tension. When
there was a party. There was a party going on in Olivia's mind.
I mean, as a 12, 13-year-old child reading the books, I was like, oh man, I could feel the very religious, this is so bad, undertones that were just there because I guess Stephanie Meyer is Mormon, and so there's very conflicting tones going on. There's a lot of be all over each other. Mm-hmm. But don't go that far, but wait till marriage. A lot of abstinence, but do everything but. And I was real into that as a 12-year-old. I was like, yeah, that's where I'm at. I wasn't. I had no boyfriends or anything. And yeah, so
nope.
Would you say, based off of your recollection of Twilight, were you team Edward or team Jacob?
Oh, I was team Jacob. 1,000%. I was team Jacob when I read the books.
Yeah.
And then I was cemented into team Jacob hood when I saw the movie because Taylor Lautner plays Jacob. And back in the day, I mean, he's a good looking guy, but back in the day, I was like, I'm going to marry Taylor Lautner. Shark Boy and Lava Girl was the first introduction. And apparently it's filmed 3 years after he did Shark Boy and Lava Girl or something
he was
that.
16 when he did Twilight.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's age appropriate because he's supposed to play a 16-year-old in Twilight, but holy cow, yeah. So love Jacob. 1,000% team Jacob.
Yeah, I was also team Jacob. I don't know. He just felt more chill than Edward. Edward just felt real moody to me, and I even back then I was like, I don't know. That just seems
it's a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to be bummed out all the time.
And I think I definitely made that switch when I read, or that hardcore decision to be team Jacob in New Moon when Edward straight up just left Bella.
Yeah, I mean,
Jacob's there to pick up the pieces, and he's just a genuine good friend to her. I'll never forget her in the I think it was Eclipse, the book. She was like, oh, not Taylor. Jacob's my soulmate, but I'm destined to be with Edward or something like that. I remember her saying something like that, and I was like, you dumb bitch. If Jacob's your soulmate, go fucking marry Jacob. But, it was a book. I was screaming at paper.
Yeah, I think New Moon was one of my favorite books because Edward was like not in it for most of the time. But yeah,
It was a good story.
I am excited to watch this and review it with you.
I'm scared, but I'm excited because this is my childhood.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, we will be back with our review of Twilight in 3, 2, 1. All right, and we're back. How do you feel?
It holds up, man.
It does. It does.
Best movie ever. I don't know. I have no critiques. This is going to be our shortest episode.
It's perfect.
I have
no qualms.
Absolutely no flaws.
Um,
The only flaw is that it's too short.
Yes.
No, it was honestly very stress-inducing, and I kind of want to sue the director and Stephenie Meyer and the entire cast for making that film.
Care to elaborate as to why?
Well, it's mostly because, like, it is so toxic, but it's also just so bad. Like, it's a toxic story, sure, but I really feel like they could have, even in 2008, I'm not, like, this isn't, like, the 1940s or whatever when, like, film is really taking off. This is, like, you know, the 21st century. We have good, like, graphics. We have, you know, years and years and years of people, like, developing script writing and, like camera angles. Like, you know, I don't know. You're the film expert. I don't know this sort of stuff. But even I was noticing, like, I don't know, 45-degree angle, like, camera shots. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
It's just bad.
Yeah, it was just kind of infuriating rewatching it. It's very triggering. I
screamed the whole way through it.
Well, I'm sure that was pleasant for everyone watching with you. Yeah, it's just brings me back to thinking that was like an attractive thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's not great, but it is fun. It's a fun movie at the end of the day, which is why we're discussing it on this podcast.
Of course.
So, before we get into it, I wanted to read to you the IMDb plot summary.
Oh,
so,
okay, yes.
Bella Swan encounters Edward Cullen, a gorgeous boy with a secret.
More like...
I want to see that movie.
Right, yeah. I'm like, I want to see the gorgeous boy with the secret, because what I got was, like, a greaseball Robert Pattinson who obviously was hating his life the entire time.
Yeah, you could tell he was not having fun. Yeah, so with that, we could probably get into it. I think our plan here is to kind of go through the movie beat by beat and just tear it to shreds. So if you're down with that, let's go.
I'm ready. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half pages of notes.
Yeah, I have
a lot of it is in all caps.
I have 6 pages of notes, so we're in the same range.
Okay, we have a lot to work with then.
All right, so we open with this weird sequence with a deer. It's just a deer minding his own business, kind of munching on some leaves. We have a weird voiceover from Bella being like, I'm gonna, it'd be nice to like die in the place of someone I love, which is like trying to set the tone, I guess, for the rest of the movie. I feel like Predator. I should have been able to kind of tie in that opening scene with like the rest of the movie, but I'm having a hard time doing that.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, they mention, like, offhandedly, like, oh, we eat deer. We eat animals. You're like, okay.
Yeah, but, like, the voiceover, like, it's like this, deer is, like, kind of an innocent creature being totally murked by a vampire in the woods.
Just imagining, like, Edward coming up with, like, a Glock. Don't fucking move.
Execution style in the woods.
Get on your knees.
The dying in place of someone I love doesn't really play a part in this movie as much as it does in some of the other movies. Maybe I'm just like missing something and not reading into it as much as I should, but
I just thought it was dumb. I literally wrote in my notes, The deer should be glad it's dead, so it doesn't have to see this shit.
We're like not even a minute into it, and Madeline's like, fuck this.
I was like, if this is the tone, like, this is already bad.
And from the start, we have this like weird like turquoise filter over the entire movie. Like we go from the deer in like Washington to Arizona, where Bella's just like standing holding a little mini cactus.
She looks ill.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like she's, I mean, I know the whole, like, it's supposed to be like, oh, I'm so like out of place, like always, like whatever. But I'm like, the makeup is terrible. Like she just looks sick.
Yeah, she's not a vampire yet, so she shouldn't look like
right?
Anemic. So she leaves Arizona and moves in with her dad, Charlie, in Forks, with a population of 3,120 people.
Charlie's low-key a DILF, though.
Before we go any further, do we want to kind of talk about Bella? Like, just like watching the movie, like, how do we feel about Bella when we first meet her?
Bella. I want to know what her hobbies are. Like, I want to know where her interests are. Like, all of these characters. Like, this movie is so surface level as far as, like, who these characters are. You know, like, Charlie, at least we can see he likes to watch, like, you know, football and baseball, like, with his friends, and he likes to hunt, and he's got, like, a cool shotgun collection. But other than that, like, I don't know anything about any of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, my first impressions of Bella as a film watcher, she, like you said, doesn't really have much personality. The exposition that they give is just circumstantial, doesn't really tell us who she is or like what she likes, why she's so moody. I guess maybe they're trying to say like she's a child of divorce, and so like therefore that's why she's moody all the time,
which I would believe. This is the one time I picked up on a theme because it was kind of thrown in my face. There is this whole like theme of temptation and, you know, saving yourself or like holding back, and it kind of like is kind of circulating around like marriage, like chastity and that sort of thing, like the sanctity of marriage. If the writer, you know, believes in like the sanctity of marriage, then she probably, and I'm not trying to like speak completely on behalf of Stephenie Meyer, obviously, but if we're going in that same vein, then divorce is just like a bad thing when you're breaking the sanctity of marriage, you know what I mean? So she might be like subconsciously highlighting like the negative aspects of divorce, like, oh, it messes with your kids so much that they're like moody and have no personality, which is not true, as you pointed out. But I feel like
I'm just trying to look at it as like a standalone film. Like if you hadn't read the books, if you have no idea who Stephenie Meyer is, you're just like saw this poster of these two sexy teenagers and you're like, I gotta go see that. And then you go sit in the theater and like this is how they present our protagonist to you, as this just one note bland child. I don't know. I feel like I've heard this trope and I've seen this trope in like so many things, that like I'm just quiet and like quirky and I'm clumsy and I can't like walk normally.
Like she mentions she's uncoordinated like 14 times in the movie. Bella's the first character that I can remember being that trope where it's like, oh, I'm like so like not like the other kids, like I don't like certain things, or like I don't fit into like whatever situation I'm in. She doesn't fit in anywhere. And like that's not a good thing, girl. Like you need to just like open up a little bit. My only friends are like my calculator and like the kid down the street who goes to a completely different school. I swear he exists. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I know back when I was reading the books, like as a 12-year-old, I like really connected with Bella, not because of like her personality, but just because of like those like really surface level attributes, because like she was just like an awkward brunette. Like in the books I feel like she has more personality. Like she wasn't like boring, she just was kind of like average, and that's how she's described. But in the movies it's like, no, she just sucks.
Yeah,
she's like the worst.
I feel like she has some form of like this like condition where teenagers think that the world is watching them. It's called adolescent egocentrism. it's like a form of like being self-absorbed, but it's almost like self-absorbed to the point where you're like anxious about it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of almost like, the you're the main character of your own story, which is ironic because like she is the main character of this story, but you base your behaviors on like almost like invisible viewers, basically.
Well, that's interesting because like we're kind of at the scene where she goes to school for the first time, and like everybody's staring at her because she's the new girl, and like I don't know about you, like we are military brats. We've been the new kid in many schools, and that has never been the case for me. I've been to like 3 different high schools in small towns. I graduated from a school with like literally 82 people in my class.
Yikes.
Nobody gives a crap.
No.
We're like, oh, cool.
I mean, they're treating her like she was a celebrity, and like people are like coming up and like kissing her on the cheek and like calling her baby. I'm like, that's the other thing. First of all,
like glaring at her as she passes because she's the new kid and they hate people.
And I mean, like, if you saw a new kid, you'd like look at them and be like, oh yes, like register, new kid, and then move on. Most children would do that because they're all probably experiencing that adolescent egocentrism thing. They don't give a fuck about this new person. They're living their own story.
Yeah, exactly. It's her first day of school. She's getting all this attention from guys. She's in the gym, which is like probably one of my favorite attempts at character development in this entire movie. Because she's like standing in the back, just like, I don't like, she doesn't know how to stand.
Right.
They're playing volleyball, and she's like, what? And she's like the only one in sweatpants. Everyone else is just like having fun, like playing volleyball. And she accidentally hits Mike, that's his name.
Yeah.
In the back of the head, and he like turns around and is like immediately enthralled with her.
Right.
And it's like, oh no, that's totally fine. And then like Anna Kendrick comes over, a little baby Anna Kendrick comes over, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, hi. Aren't like you from Arizona? Aren't people from Arizona supposed to be tan? And then Bella's like, I don't know, maybe that's why they kicked me out. But she doesn't even like say it in a funny way. It's like she's like depressed. Like
she's genuinely upset that she had to leave Arizona. They actually kicked her out.
And they react like she like just, mic dropped. This really hilarious
joke. Bella's got jokes. I was like, does Arizona not have gym class or other students?
Apparently not. Bella's never had to experience this before.
Again, this is another moment where I'm like, I want to know more about Bella's past, like what she was like in Arizona, because like she's acting like she's never been around. Was she homeschooled? Like she's acting like she's never been around.
Yeah, I mean that would make
her age before.
If they just told us like, hey, yeah, I was homeschooled and this is my first time ever going to a public school. The way that
I was homeschooled by my erratic, harebrained mother.
Yeah, exactly. It would make a little bit more sense. Oh, okay.
Lunch scene.
Yes,
lunch scene.
We are at
lunch scene. Oh my god. Well, first of all, lunch scene, Bella like sits down with her friends, her new like enormous posse. So like she goes from like being theoretically homeschooled and having no friends to having like 8 friends. Big step up for Bella. I'm rooting for her at this point. So they're all chit-chatting. Next thing you know, these like mysterious figures walk into the door, fucking Baywatch style, like sexy rock music going on the whole time. And she's like, who are they? And Anna Kendrick's ass, she's the saving grace of this movie. Anna Kendrick cracked me up the whole time. And I'm led to believe, except for this like monologue she has about the Cullens, every other line she says has to be improvised because they're just so funny. Like the one-liners she has are great compared to like the rest of this god-awful script. She's like, who's that? Bella says that. And then Anna Kendrick's like, oh, those are the Cullens. They're Dr.
the 25-year-old teenagers.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, here comes the 40-year-old playing Emmett. And she's like, they're foster kids, but they're like together. So they come in, it's the first couple is Rosalie and Emmett, and like they just look like, prom king and queen, except like dead, which they are. And then Alice and Jasper come in. Every scene Jasper's in, I laugh. Because he does look like he's in pain. Mm-hmm. He's like constantly just like, I don't think he blinks the entire film. So he cracks me up. And then Edward comes in and like, like the guitar solo and like
Doves fly.
Right? Belle is just like, I need to go to the bathroom now. And Robert Pattinson walks in. He looks awful. He looks awful. And he is a beautiful man.
No,
like
he's very attractive, but not in this movie.
Very attractive.
Not
like
in this movie.
I just watched the trailer for The Lighthouse, that weird black and white movie he's doing with William Dafoe. He looks better in that than he does in Twilight.
I mean,
so
he's a very attractive man. I just don't know none of them look that attractive. They all look like slightly dirty and slightly like, I know they're supposed to be vampires, so they're supposed to be pale, but like, they're not supposed to look sick. Like,
I don't know.
That takes away from the like intrigue that they're supposed to have. I'm just like, they don't look healthy.
I think that's the intrigue, is like, are they okay? Isn't their foster dad a doctor?
Should he be taking care of this?
Are they all anemic? Is that why he fosters them? So that's pretty much the lunch scene.
But then we go straight into my next favorite.
Biology.
So after lunch, Bella goes to biology class, and she walks in, and there's conveniently a fan right behind her. And
because it's March, and it's boiling in Fort Washington.
They have no air conditioning, I guess, in the school. So they put the fan by the door instead of like by the window.
I don't know. It's also a fancy school from the outside. It's a nice school.
It looks massive for like
It looks huge. I wrote that in my notes. I was like, that's a big ass school for a town of 3,000 people.
There's probably like 200 people at the school.
Right?
Yeah, so she walks in, and the fan is conveniently there to waft her scent directly over to Edward, and he reacts like he jizzed himself while also trying to hold back puke at the same
vomiting.
time.
Yeah. It's like he saw something like super hot, and then immediately like saw a video of his grandparents having sex. So he was like both turned on and completely disgusted, which is like actually probably what he was feeling in the moment. So great acting.
Peak acting from Robert in that moment. So Bella comes and sits next to Edward, and Edward looks like he's having some trouble. So Edward proceeds to stare at Bella for the remainder of the class.
Unblinking.
Immediately after the class ends, he goes to the principal's office to try to switch out of class. Bella catches him trying to switch out of class, and when they say no, he aggressively pushes past her and is like, I'll just endure it.
Red flags, Bella, from the beginning.
Yeah, he can't control his emotions. I guess it's his bloodlust, but like, come on, man. We all have stuff going on. Like, we can still be nice to each other.
I mean, in hindsight, he might have decided to start being a dick then, because you know how later on he's like, oh, I'm sorry I'm being rude, but like, we can't be friends. Like, maybe that was the moment where he was like, well, if I can't not be in the same class as her, I might as well just like be as big of an ass as possible to keep her away from me, which, you know, as Twilight dictates, just makes her more interested.
Yeah, that's like their first interaction, and we're supposed to kind of like from there want them to be together, but like, we'll talk about their interactions after this point, and like, you never feel it, or at least for me. Like, even when I saw the movie in theaters as a 8th grader, like, I was like super down with the books. I was like, yeah, this is great, this is my jam. And then I saw it in theaters and I was like, not my jam anymore. Like, I hop off this train at this stop.
It's funny because they don't really have any like on-screen chemistry.
No, because I think
they date for years in real life. Yeah.
Like, even throughout the rest of the movies, like, we're just talking about Twilight in this episode, but like, even throughout the rest of the movies, there's like like, the way they touch each other is like so stiff and so there's like no passion. They think that they're showing passion, but it's just, it looks like they're in pain. Like, they're just like,
right. I think they're trying to exhibit like
intensity,
resisting the desire or whatever, but really it's just like Edward's like a 99-year-old virgin, and so is Bella in a way. And they're both like just figuring out how to like touch a person of the opposite sex.
I feel like it's partly I don't think it's their fault, because they're both very talented actors. I think it's the direction. Like, I think that whoever directed this movie, actually I have that right now. I should give the stats. So this movie was directed by Catherine Hardwicke.
Good. Can you give me her address so I can send her the
I'll look it up real
lawsuit
fast.
papers that
Yeah.
so
I'll look it
I
up.
could serve her papers?
I feel like it's the direction, because I know that there are better actors than that, and Kristen Stewart
Fucking
is
hot.
awful in this movie.
Oh, she's awful in this movie. Like, I understand now why people would make fun of her for years, you know, for her acting in this movie. Like, and I think the other thing is, like, the direction was obviously bad, but the characters are bad too. They're just not good characters. Like, it would be one thing if, like, they were, like, opposites of each other. They're really not. They're, like, the same person. One's just a vampire.
Because, like, okay, take away the vampire thing away from this story. It's creepy. Hella creepy.
He is definitely an incel. If you take the vampire, he's still an incel.
Yeah, he's still
even
an
though
incel.
He's a vampire.
He's still involuntarily celibate.
He's still on Reddit, fucking like just going to town on women who post about things they like.
Yeah. So Bella comes back to school. She comes to school, but she walks into biology and sees that Edward's back. Yay!
Why did she choose to sit next to him? I'm sure were there assigned seats? I really wasn't sure. Was it like an assigned seat situation? Either way, I would have been going up to that teacher and been like, you cannot put me with him. Like, I'm sorry. He was rude to me. He sucks. Like, I would have been like, I don't want to be partnered with Edward. Like, if he's going to be rude to me, I'm going to be rude back. Like, I don't want to sit next to this creepy asshole. Regardless, she does go sit down. And Robert Pattinson's American accent.
I know.
Just the words. He was like, he sounded like a German boy. He was like, hello. Hello.
I've been trying to practice my impression of that like all day because I don't know how to do
my
it.
desk. My supervisor's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, hello. Hello. I'm Edward Cullen. And then she's like, oh, you were out. And he was like, yeah.
No. She's like, you were gone. As if they have any sort of rapport, or like he like did something to her, or like they have like a friendship that he betrayed by like not showing up. It's like, you didn't have any relationship, like you didn't even talk to each other. Like, why did you act like that? You were gone. And he's like, yeah, bitch, I was out of town. I had family stuff to deal with. Like, what if he was just like, yeah, my grandma died? And she'd be like, oh. Like,
hello. I'm Edward. I'm an American just like you. I am definitely a human. But then he was like, personal reasons. I was like, this guy is crazy.
Back it up a little bit to when they're like doing the anaphase, metaphase, all that stuff. Like, Edward's like super condescending. Like, she checks it and says anaphase or whatever, and he's like, do you mind if I like double check? Because like she's got a brain. I mean, she doesn't, seem to have a personality, but like, she's not dumb.
There's never been a woman in history who knew math or science. This is crazy.
I think it just comes back to directing. But then they proceed to have this like super weird conversation where Bella looks like she's struggling with some food poisoning. Everything that she says, she does this weird like blinking and like swallowing thing. It cuts to them in the hallway, and he's like asking really personal questions. So why don't you want to live with Phil and your mom? And she's like trying to answer, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm being so pushy. You're very difficult for me to read. Like, okay. And then that's when
bitch, we just met.
Yeah, that's when she's like, oh, your eyes are like a different color. And then he just turns and walks away. Like,
I'm asking you about your parents' divorce. How dare you address my eye color, you nosy bitch.
Like real good foundation to this relationship.
Real smooth.
Yeah, like you could really feel the connection, the like fiery chemistry between these two characters.
Yes.
And then this is where we get the parking lot scene.
Parking lot. All
right, go for it.
Okay, so Bella is being her natural quirky self and is reading up against her car. And, everybody's like out of school. They're like getting into their cars and shit. She's just taking forever to put this book away and get in her car. And she has her headphones in. She's rocking out probably to Paramore or Linkin Park because like that's all that was on the movie soundtrack. banging soundtrack, by the way.
Yeah.
Earlier in the day, Bella had slipped like on her way to the truck or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think that was like the foreshadowing that it was like icy out or whatever. And so clearly the school had not salted this parking lot correctly, because in comes that one kid with the creepy matte black van. He comes careening into the parking lot, swerves a car that was backing out. He like fishtails like 150 yards towards Bella. Bella turns around like at the last possible second, and there Edward is, just douche, like grabs her, throws her to the ground, fucking punches the shit out of this van, stops it in its tracks. Doesn't even hit Bella's car. In fact, Edward dents Bella's car. They're like staring at each other for what feels like an eternity. And then he just like gets up and like jumps over the back of her car and just runs away. And then there is a pregnant pause, like fucking elephant gestation period pause, before anyone reacts to this car accident. Not even the guy driving. Like everybody gets out of the car, or like everybody rushes to the car. Oh my God, Bella, oh my God. Edward's already like at his house at this point. He ran all the way home before anybody realized what happened.
Yeah.
But that just cracked me up, because there was just them staring into each other's eyes. Like there was no communication when they were staring at each other. Like Bella's like staring at him like, you're here right now, and he's staring back like,
I'm here. Hello.
Hello, Bella. Goodbye. And then he like, steeple chases over the fucking bed of the truck and just takes off. Oh man.
Yeah, I think in regards to the pregnant pause, I think that's an issue throughout this whole movie. Like the pacing and like the rhythm of the editing is like really all over the place, and
very uncomfortable.
It's just very unnatural, and like I think that adds to the uncomfortableness of literally everything about this movie, because it just doesn't feel natural. And when you can't like be sucked into the rhythm of the movie, then like it's off-putting, and it hinders your ability to kind of like connect to the characters and like what's going on, because you're just like uncomfortable. Like you can do it in a way where the uncomfortableness is like adding to the story, but like in this movie, it feels like a student film, like a really weirdly paced editing, where it's like somebody says something and then there's just like a second too long before someone responds.
But even then, even after the really aggressively long staring contest is over, there's still like a decent amount of time before anybody's like, it's funny because they're all staring at the car as Edward's like jumping and like running away, and then like it's almost like as soon as he's out of frame, they're like, oh thank God, Edward's gone. Bella.
Yeah, they were waiting for their cue. Like
they hate Edward so much they didn't want him in the vicinity when they went to like check on Bella.
They were waiting for their cue from the director. Like,
yeah.
And action. So Bella's in the hospital, and this is when we meet Carlisle.
Definitely.
Carlisle comes in. He's a daddy.
He is vampire Tom Cruise, and I am here for it.
Oh, we'll get to another movie where we have a vampire Tom Cruise. Like, don't you worry. But I agree. This is like Walmart brand vampire Tom Cruise.
Okay, let's not be that mean. Let's do like Kohl's.
Could we do like TJ Maxx?
That's fine.
Yeah, so we meet Carlisle. He's a hunk.
He's a VILF vampire I'd like to fuck.
And eventually Bella confronts Edward while she's at the hospital, and he gaslights the hell out of her. Like, when we talk about toxic elements of this movie and of this series of books and movies, this is like peak what we're talking about. Like, there's lots of different examples of really toxic things that are just, ignored. But this scene is just...
This is pretty high up there in toxic scenes for me. Like, there is some crazy shit that happens as far as, like, toxicity between Edward and Bella. But this is, like, that's some crazy shit right there.
Just, like, I feel like as a 110-year-old, whatever, like however old he is, like he should have like maybe figured out a way to talk to people or like be more clever about certain things. But like she just straight up is like, how'd you do that? Like you like you saved me. And his response is, instead of like coming up with something clever, he's like, well, no one's gonna believe you.
I mean, granted, like, he probably couldn't completely explain it away like he was trying to, but even if he was, like, nicer about it, it might have, like, quelled her interest or quelled, like, her fury, because, like, I was furious after that, and I mean, I kind of, like, props to her a little bit for being, like, not really giving in to the gaslighting, because she was like, nah, dude, I know what I saw. You were literally 100 feet away from me.
You had that moment between each other in the parking lot.
And then you were there in an instant. And for some reason, it took you 0.02 seconds to get to me when a car was coming my way and 45 minutes to leave after you stared at me.
Yeah, it's pretty infuriating.
So this is the beginning of the gaslighting, for sure.
Yeah. And then cut to close-up of Edward's eyes. He's in her room, watching her sleep.
I screamed. Like, that was the first point of the movie where I started screaming. I was like, ah! And I wrote, okay, so, like, she wakes up, sees him, and then she, like, turns on the lamp and he's gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, despite the supernatural, him being able to escape without making any noise is absolute bullshit.
She has beads on her window.
Right? Like you can't move that fast.
You see the branch move. If the branch moves when he like leaves, the fucking beads on her window would move. I think he.
I mean, he did it on purpose. He went into a room on purpose.
He just stepped to the left so that the camera wouldn't see him anymore. He didn't actually. He didn't move. Like he's still in the room.
There's like an X taped on the floor, like invisible,
just like slightly out of frame. So like when the camera pans back over, he's like not where he was before.
Yeah,
that's horrifying.
Oh, that was terrible.
You know, real romantic.
And like girls like were into that. I was, you know, like reading the books, I was into that. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, granted I was Team Jacob, but like other girls out there who were like Team Edward were like into like just the toxic aspects
like him
of
being
him,
obsessed with her. Like,
yeah, like stalking her.
You, which is not fun, guys.
Yeah.
People listening. It's not cute. It's
don't
not
stalk
fun.
People.
Yeah. Don't accept that as
very unsettling.
Yeah, just not good.
Girls, if you wake up and he's watching you sleep, call the cops.
If he wasn't in your room when you went to sleep and you wake up and he's in your room watching you sleep, call the cops. Yikes. Okay, so then we have the field trip scene where he gaslights her even more. He's like, yeah, so it was like an adrenaline thing. You can Google it. And my thing is, I feel like his like window of like using that as an acceptable response would have been initially when she confronted him, because initially he just said, no one's gonna believe you, and then that was his response, and then he like had time to think about it and come up with like a reason.
Like I feel like in that moment
vampire,
when
he's had like over 100 years to like figure out what he could say if like he accidentally was too strong in a certain situation. Like
right.
He had 100 years to figure out like adrenaline is like an acceptable response. Carlisle is a doctor.
And I was going to say, in like the scene where like right before she confronts him, he and Rosalie and Carlisle are like having a conversation. You know, they obviously would have to cover that up somehow. So I'm surprised neither one of them were like, if she asks, just say you had an adrenaline rush, or like something else. You know what I mean? Not just, hey, go over there and be a huge fucking penis to her. Just, that is the optimal situation.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
So Edward is super rude and said that they shouldn't be friends anymore, even though like their relationship up until this point like warrants none of that, because they were not friends. They have been very rude to each other this whole time. So like I don't know where he gets off thinking that he can just end their friendship when they don't have a friendship. And he says, I have it written down, if you were smart, you would stay away from me. I'm not the hero.
This is
I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like, Bella, anybody listening, another PSA. If someone says that to you, listen to them. And Bella's like, no, you're not. It's like, Bella, you don't know him.
I also like how she says something along the lines of like, oh, you regret saving me. And he's like, I never said that. And she's like, oh, I can see in your eyes that you regretted saving me. If you recognize that, stay away. Like, if you see in someone's eyes that they regret saving your life, they just might kill you in the future.
And they say that you should stay away from them and that they're the bad guy. Like, well, thank you.
Is there like a flag beyond red flag? Like,
I feel like we should have had like a red flag counter like while we were doing this. Like, ding,
oh
ding,
my gosh.
but,
That'd been annoying at this point. Everything we say.
It's just the entire podcast is just
ding 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 ding.
Yeah. So Bella denies all of it and tries to invite him to the beach with her friends. And he's like, I don't know about that.
It's very crowded. Cut to a completely empty beach.
Yeah. Which is, I think, the point. Like, he was trying to get out of it.
Right.
But that is true. That's how the beaches in Washington are. They're very
lovely.
Very lovely.
This is my favorite scene, by the way, the beach scene.
Yeah, because it's like one of the ones with Jacob. But at the beach, all the kids are sitting around eating red vines, which I actually appreciate as a detail because my family is from Washington, and red vines is like their shit. Like they fucking love red vines. And all the people sitting around in the van, they're all just like munching on red vines, and I was like, relatable. Yeah. And so Jacob comes out of nowhere with his friends, and his friend is like, the Cullens don't come here. And
that made me laugh.
He looks like he's like about to pass out. And
he's very upset that the Cullens were ever mentioned.
The Cullens don't come here. And he like it holds on his face for a little too long. And it like looks over at his friend like,
yeah, even this one friend is kind of looking at him like, why say that, bro? Like, dude, and then, they weren't asking if the Cullens could come here.
Yeah, and so it cuts to Jacob and Bella walking down the beach, just like talking, and Jacob's being like quirky and cute.
Love him.
Yeah, like the Cullens, we're descended from, or it's legend that we are descended from wolves, and the Cullens are descended from another tribe, and we like made this treaty we won't expose them to the pale faces if they just like stay off our land.
Which kind of begs the question, like the way he was telling the story led me to believe that Jacob is not yet aware that he is like he's actually going to become a werewolf.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm remembering kind of how the books went, like that's kind of the case.
Is it in the second book? I really feel like it's either between the second and the third book or in the second book itself.
It's in the second book. That's like the whole thing is like,
the
first book is about the vampires, the second book is about the werewolves, and then the third and fourth book are like all the shit's going down. Yeah, so this conversation sparks Bella to go on another Googling rampage.
Love it.
One of many. And she's trying to find a bookstore. She Googles for bookstores that can give her resources about this legend and this tribe when she could just look up the legend and this tribe on Google. Like, which she passes multiple links with the with the information that she wants in search of a bookstore.
Although I do appreciate that she was like supporting like a local indigenous bookstore.
Just too much work.
True. This is true.
Yep. So then Bella and her friends go shopping for prom dresses, and Bella goes to a bookstore where she gets a book about the legend that Jacob was describing. And when she leaves the bookstore, she finds herself alone in like a parking lot with a pack of males, basically. Like they just descend from all corners of the parking lot, and and then Edward comes out of nowhere, driving recklessly. He demands her to get in the car and then growls at the guys to make them back off. And then he spins around in the car and angrily drives off.
Temper your road rage. I know everybody has road rage, but just like bring it down a notch,
Yeah, so Edward says, please distract me. And Bella's like, why, you were following me? And he's like, I don't know, something to the effect of like, you don't know the vile things that they were thinking. And Bella's like, well, you do. And he says, it's not hard to guess, which I actually liked that response. I was like, okay.
It's very true.
Yeah, like, okay, that's a reasonable response from Edward for the first time in this entire movie. So he takes her to the restaurant where he's supposed to meet her friends. And he's like, I feel very protective of you.
Where are the alarm bells? Like, she's like, okay, so you were following me. Like, she calls him out and he's like, I just feel very protective of you. I would be like, miss, like, waitress, can you please get the police on the line, aka my father, because I want to go home and I don't want to die. Just why? Like, why? Like, the director's a woman. I'm sure the people who wrote the screen, I think the person who wrote the screen adaptation.
It was made pretty much entirely by women. Like, the screenwriter was a woman, the director was a woman, the author was a woman.
And, like, this is a teen fantasy series. Like, feminism is not a radical idea at this point, and this isn't even, like, feminist ideas. This is just basic common sense and safety. Like, you know how many, yeah, I'm getting really mad now. You know how many young girls and boys, like, you know how many young people read these books and were, like, so enthralled with this romance. Like, did you not see the danger in, like, teaching young people that, you know, these obsessive, stalker, abusive, toxic behaviors were, like, romantic and hot? Like, just because, you know, as adults, like, you might have, like, a weird, like, thing for it. Like, it's a kind of, it's, I don't know, it's just weird. It's just infuriating because, you know, every woman at some point experiences, like, negative behavior from a man, like sexual harassment, stalking, like, all of that stuff. You experience it. And it's just infuriating to see that it is, like, so, like, forced in your face in this movie because, like, we already experience it on a day-to-day basis. We should have more, like, books that say, like, this shit isn't okay. Like, at that time. I'm sure now they're coming out and, like, all the young people of today will be much better off reading those books or reading, you know, fucking read Percy Jackson, read Harry Potter. Like, fuck J.K. Rowling. We won't talk about that. But you know what I mean? Like, read books that, like, have
it's too soon.
Too soon. Read books that have way better values for young people than Twilight. Twilight was sensationalized because it was about sexy vampires and werewolves. That's not a problem. The problem is how the sexy vampires and werewolves behave to one another and to their, like, lovers. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything that you said. I think it's an interesting kind of thing that this was, like, the most sensationalized thing made and tailored for teenage girls. And everything made for teenage girls is always uncool. You know, this is an example of something tailored towards teenage girls that is extremely toxic. And it kind of, like,
hypersexualized.
Yeah, it's hypersexualized, and it's like it kind of set the precedent for other stories. It's not the first. Like, there have always been most things tailored towards women. There's always some sort of layer of misogyny and, like, just, like, not great kind of social analysis of things for women. But this was, like, huge. And
yeah,
so many teenage girls, ourselves included, just kind of ate it up, and we saw ourselves within the story somehow, and didn't, like, nobody was there to tell us, hey, this is problematic. Like, this is not something that you should be idolizing and taking in as, like, a healthy, sexy relationship. But at the same time, like, everything that's made for teenage girls, there's, like, a layer of, well, that's not cool. So, like, if you like that thing, like, you're stupid and you shouldn't like that, and you're uncool if you like that. And that's just kind of ridiculous. Like,
right.
There's plenty of really toxic things made for men that, like, don't receive the amount of, like, hate and vitriol that Twilight and people who like Twilight get.
Right.
Okay, so then he reveals that he can read minds.
Yes.
And he proves it by just saying sex, money, cat about people in the room. Hi, Marty.
And also, like,
my dog is trying to get in on this podcast. Please go lie down.
She's like, I heard we were talking about toxic relationships. I have some things to add. Olivia does not give me enough treats. This is a toxic relationship.
Oh, she's got plenty of treats.
What I'm saying is she buys it, and then she's, again, like, you know, kind of, like, back to my rant a little bit. She's, like, more concerned about him, like, reading minds, and the fact that, like, he can't read her mind. And that's, like, such, like, that's such, like, a good...
something wrong with me? Instead of being, like, you can read fucking minds? Like, what?
Or even, like, if he was lying, like, what a great cover-up. Like, he can pretend to, like, know what everybody else is thinking, but he's like, but for some reason I can't read yours, because I'd be like, yeah, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 7 billion. What is it?
Yeah.
And then I wrote down, Bella doesn't think, LOL.
Yeah. They're driving back, and they see that there's a bunch of cop cars outside, I guess, the police station?
Yeah.
Which is where cop cars are, so...
What's the concern? What's the hubbub?
I don't know. But then we get the best line delivery I've ever heard. Bella goes, whoa, what is going on? Like, she sees a bunch of cop cars, and instead of being like, yo, what's going on? She's like, whoa, what is going on?
And Edward's like, that's a police station. Like,
your dad works there.
Again, it's like every scene she's being introduced to a new social concept. Like, she's like spotting police cars for the first time in her life. Like, whoa.
And we find out that Waylon Buckrack Santa has been murdered. So sad. Moving on. So we get another Googling montage of Bella putting the pieces together of Edward being a vampire. And she goes to a website where there's like different, you can like find out about vampires in like different parts of the world. And it's like Egypt, India, and then specifically underneath it's like the Pacific Northwest.
I'm gonna have freaking Diet Coke coming out of my nose in a second. I saw that too, and I was like, like the Pacific Northwest has like some crazy vampire problems. They appear nowhere else in the continental United States.
No, just in Asia and Africa and
Peru.
The Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Also, Marley's chomping on food, so if you can hear that, that's what that is. So once she, sees very specific words in her Google search, she wanders into the woods alone, and Edward follows her.
Yeah, like, what is this?
We get the most iconic scene in the movie, I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, does no one notice that the two of them go off into the fucking forbidden forest? Like, this is where we have, like, the weird, like, angles, too, where it's at, like a friggin' 45-degree angle, like...
Yeah.
I was just disoriented. And I'm like, I don't think that that's the point of the scene, is to be disoriented.
Like, are we supposed to be scared? Are we supposed to be, like, turned on? Are we supposed to be, excited? Are we supposed to be... I don't know.
We've all been with Bella to put the pieces together.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know that he's a vampire at this point, then, like, context clues, my guys. I don't... Right. So she's, like, rambling all the things that she learned on Google, and...
I Googled it. That would have been a great one-liner if she was like, I Googled it.
Yeah, I Googled it.
We need to rewrite this movie. I love how she's like, how old are you? And he's like, in his, like, Batman voice, he's like, 17. And then she's like, how long have you been 17? And he's like, a while. I'm like, no one's a smart ass in this movie. Like, I want Edward to be like, 17. And then she's like, how long have you been 17? And he's like, my birthday was in February.
Just keep going in circles. If he's gonna do the gaslighting game, he's gotta go all the way in. Like, come on. Ugh.
Right? Like, yeah, his birthday was actually, like, in February, but he's also, like, 112 years old or whatever. But, oh, Lord. Yeah, and then he says, as you said, say it out loud. Vampire. And, like, is that supposed to be, like, an earth-shattering moment. Like I said, we were all there when she put the pieces together.
I'm literally sitting on my couch, still eating popcorn. I don't move anything. I don't react in any way.
I look up from my phone, like, did she say something?
And then he gets triggered, and he like freaks the fuck out, and is like, "You got to see what my skin looks like." And she's like,
"Oh my god!" When
he like aggressively drags her through the forest, and
I don't understand why he didn't just like pick her up right away and just like run, because he's like just like arm like manhandling her, and she's like, yeah, just going along with it, like, oh, where are we going, Edward? Where are we going,
Thunder?
What's the number one question you should be asking right now? What do we eat?
And then
deer, I hope. And then he's like, damn it.
And then we see the deer from the beginning, like, nope.
The deer comes out with the Glock this time. The deer is the hero we needed the whole time.
I would love this movie if that was the case.
Oh, yes. Ugh. So he runs her up the mountain, which was just hilarious in and of itself. Like, there's like the ground angle, like when they run past and it's like his feet on the ground. You can tell he's on like a wire and his like legs are just flailing. Like, yeah, so bad. Like... This movie's so bad. But when they get to the top and he's like, I have to show you what we look like in the sun. So then he rips his shirt open. He's like sparkly and shit. My initial thought was, I really wish vampires were ashy, like in the sun, like really ugly or something.
Yeah, they just turn really ugly.
Or they turn into like those zombies from like Pirates of the Caribbean, like when they step into the moonlight, they're like skeletons and shit. That would have been really cool.
It's kind of a killer. It's like, okay, we're being a little over dramatic here.
As if you could outrun me, as if you could fight me off.
Like,
swear to me. Like, throws like a tree branch against another tree.
And then he is in a tree.
I sent you that clip where I was like, why is he like crouched in this tree?
He just has to be above her. And she's like looking up at him like, wow.
We will get to this later, but there is like, we're just tossing all vampire lore that doesn't fit in with the plot. Because like there's other things. First of all, like vampires burst into flames typically when they're exposed to sunlight. Like they can't even be like outside when it's sunlight, not even on a cloudy day. Mm-hmm. They cannot be outdoors when the sun is a-shining. And they also sleep. Vampires sleep in coffins. Duh. Idiots.
Gosh, Stephanie Meyer.
God, Stephanie. I'm so mad right now. She did get the werewolves are their natural enemies thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can be seen in mirrors. Like they can obviously show up in photographs.
They don't like garlic, but they're making Italian food for Bella when she shows up at their house.
If I was Bella, I would roll up there with like a big, like huge ass crucifix necklace.
Apparently garlic's not an issue. So they show up to school. They just get out of the car. They're not acting any differently than they have been. But everybody acts like, whoa. But they've been seen together before. So like, true. I don't understand.
Like maybe they're surprised that Bella's alive because they all saw her go into the woods.
They're like, oh, she's there.
With Edward. They're like, he got another one, damn. Like, and the police chief's daughter too. Wow, he is ballsy. And then they roll up the next day and she's alive and he's got this like smirk on his face and everybody's like, whoa, she lived and they fucked, which they didn't, but he had that smirk on his face like, oh yeah, I totally got it last night.
Yeah. And they go out into the woods again, and Edward's explaining how he became a vampire, and we get the like super sexy Carlisle like making out with his neck scene.
Here's my question about that, about Carlisle, like his, and I'm sure the book explains it more, but like again, since we're only talking about the movie, did Carlisle only turn 6 people the entire time he's been a vampire? Or have there been other like people that he's turned into vampires who decided they did not want to stay part of like his coven? Because like
want to be vegetarians essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure. I'm just gonna say yes because he was like part of the Volturi at one point. So I'm sure that
you know way more. You remember way more about the Twilight franchise than I do because I don't remember any.
No. Okay. So I rewatched a lot of the movies recently because I was showing Ryan. I forced my partner to watch Twilight with me because I had nothing better to do in quarantine. So it's all pretty fresh for me. But
Okay.
I guess Carlisle was part of the Volturi at one point, so he probably did turn people that just didn't want to be vegetarians.
So from now on, I'm just going to turn people who want to be vegetarians. And so like the vetting process I don't know if he like groomed him up until this point or if this was like a do or die where he's like, I'm gonna turn you into a vampire, but you can only be vegetarian and eat deer, quote unquote vegetarian. Or was Edward just like laying there just like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I'm fucking dying of Spanish flu. And he's just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, whatever you say, just do whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. And then when, Edward's thirsting for blood, Carlisle comes back with the fucking terms and conditions of like his eternal life.
See this deer?
Yeah.
That's all you can eat. Yeah.
See this deer? I've been hunting him for years.
He always manages to get away. Yeah, so Edward invites Bella to his house to meet his family, I guess. His family's making Italian food, so the garlic thing is not a problem.
I think it was really cute that they wanted to cook for her. And
they were like
so
going all out. They had like videos going. There's like 5 of them chopping stuff in the...
Yeah, chopping up like, basil, I don't know, herbs and spices.
The deer they caught.
Not the one that Carlisle's been buying after all these years. He's turned 6 people and none of them could catch him. Deer is a boss. This deer runs Forks, Washington. Anyway, so yeah, they're making all this Italian food and it looks
like, oh
great.
No, I already ate. And so then Rosalie freaks the fuck out and like smashes a bowl with her.
I related to
hands.
that a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I would be a little annoyed too. Like, Edward, you don't communicate. You left the house knowing that they were gonna like make food. They had to go grocery shopping. They don't ever go grocery shopping because they don't eat food. You knew they went grocery shopping. And you didn't tell Bella like they're making you food? Like, this is on Edward, I think.
This is on Edward. And that's why if I was Rosalie, I mean, again, Edward is being very selfish this whole fucking time because like I've been I don't know how long Rosalie's been a vampire. I think they address that like everybody's like origin story. So either way, Rosalie's been around the block a few times and all of a sudden
why couldn't the movies be about her and her story? Like her story's like super badass.
Yeah.
Alas,
I'm telling you.
We get Bella.
Yep, Bella. Fucking
yeah, so
fine.
They make her dinner. She's like, no, I already ate, and they get mad. And then they don't hang out with the family for the rest of the time. They just
don't get to know
right upstairs. They see the graduation caps, which is kind of a cute little
nod.
Yeah.
To their eternal life.
And then immediately Edward just like flies out the window with her on their back and we get the best line.
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey. What a cute nickname.
Mm.
You know what I want my vampiric bae to call me? Spider Monkey. At least it's better than like calling her like Scrumptious or something. You better hold on tight, my tasty treat. Like I'd be like, Edward, come on, it was funny earlier, now it's just getting uncomfortable.
Yeah. I can't tell how serious you're being, so I don't like this. And then cut to Edward shows up in her room again, and she's like, do you like watch me sleep a lot? And he's like, yeah, I do. And it's like, Oh,
I screamed again at that point.
Yeah.
Where he just blatantly admits it. And I said, how is she turned on by stalking?
I have written in all caps in my notes. And then we get the slowest, most unromantic kiss of all time. And then he like flies across the room and he's like, stop. But like
she's like straight up in her undies.
Yeah, I mean like you're the one that initiated this. Like you stop, sir.
Yeah, keep it in your pants. Keep your fangs in your gums. I don't know how that works.
And then Bella goes to play baseball with Edward's family. I don't know. I love this sequence. Just the music, the like weird slow motion baseball.
Was a great choice.
When I watched this for the first time with Ryan, my partner.
Yes.
He had no idea anything. He didn't know anything about Twilight. So I was like, it was the first time I'd watched it in years. And so I was just relishing the cringiness of it all. And I was like remembering things as they were coming up. And then this scene started to happen and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the vampire baseball. And Ryan goes, there's vampire baseball? How could you forget?
How could I have forgotten?
It's amazing. And then
that's another iconic scene.
Yeah, at the end of the sequence, enter the 3 bad guys on the treadmill.
Walking in, I was like, what is going on? Why couldn't they have just walked? It was a fun, innovative film technique that just didn't quite land. It was more distracting than anything else, I think. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to show that they're walking fast, but like it just looks like they're floating on the ground. It almost made them look like they were moving slower.
Yeah, like the area around them is moving faster than they are.
Right? So, the trees are sprinting. You guys are going backwards.
And they're like, hey, can we play baseball with you? Carlisle's like, sure. And then James gets a whiff of Bella's hair, and he's like, oh boy. Yeah. And
that is the only way this apex predator could have smelled her was the fucking wind.
But then, like, this is the point where the plot actually, like, kicks in.
Right.
Like, 15 minutes.
We're already, like, a solid hour 15 into this movie.
Yeah, like, 20 minutes before the movie ends. Or, like, oh, snap, there's stakes here. I still don't understand, like, why he like, obsesses over Bella. Like, why does he have to track her down, go all the way to Arizona, find out her address,
I don't know.
Her ballet studio? Like, where does he get, like, I get that he's, like, a tracker, that's, like, his thing, but, like, they don't, like, set it up very well in the movie. I don't remember how they set it up in the books, but in the movie, it's just, like, he's obsessed with you now, and he'll never stop, even though, like, we don't know why. Like, why does he care?
I think he's just spiteful. I think, like, even though, like, the Cullens are, like, complete strangers to him, the fact that, like, this tasty ass snack was just like taken away from him, he's like, you know what, fuck these guys, like, fuck these, like, holier than thou, like, vampires who only eat fucking deer. Yeah, I think he was just like, I think he literally was like, these holier than thou, like, fake vampires think that they can keep this, like, delicious ass snack away from me. Well, guess what? Not only am I going to get this snack, I'm going to make it the most, like, horrific thing you've ever seen. Like, I think he's just, like, sadistic and also, like, majorly butthurt that, like, the Cullens were like, no, fuck you. Like, we love humans.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what it was. And, like, Edward says it a little bit. He's like, oh, the way I reacted, like, set him off, and that's why he's, like, gonna kill you. And I'm like, it's a bit of a dramatic reaction, but then
it's
again,
just a lot of toxic masculinity going on.
There really is.
Some guy looks at you wrong and you have to kill his girlfriend. Like, I don't see how those two things are.
You, like, hit on somebody's girlfriend, her boyfriend gets mad, and now you have to kill her. Like, it's not her fault that you have problems.
Yeah, she might be a snack and all, but, like, chill.
Yeah, it might be the whole goddamn meal. You can still chill.
Yeah, so we ended up at Bella's ballet studio, and James gives his little anime villain speech with a video camera just for flair and fun. He's torturing Bella. We get, like, one of the only other scenes where Kristen Stewart shows any sort of emotion at all when she's writhing in pain.
Well, could you imagine if, like, he broke her leg and she still was just like, ah. She's like, whoa, what's that? Like, looking at her, like, broken leg.
Whoa, what is going on?
So, yeah, the acting was appropriate. And so then Edward comes in and, like, tries to wreck James's shit and then tries to take off with Bella. And, you know, the best part, he grabs his ankle and just throws him to the ground. That cracked me up. I was like, that is excellent. That is excellent choreography for this fight scene.
I love when Edward's, like, holding him up and they're just, like, showing each other's teeth.
They came bounding over. Fucking Edward and James are like, ah! So, yeah, they're all up in each other's faces. And then they all show up.
Carlisle's like, Edward, Bella's dying. And so then it's like, dude, you're the doctor. Why don't you do anything? And
I like how Alice is the one, like,
that, like, sucks out the venom. Like, why does Edward
I literally wrote, why didn't Carlisle and Edward switch places? Because obviously Carlisle has more self-control.
He's done this a million times.
If, like, Edward had decided, like, okay, let's not do the change, I would have been, if I was Carlisle, I would have been like, great, hold this belt down, this tourniquet down, tight as fuck while I suck the venom out because you're gonna kill her. And then, like, her being cross-eyed when he was, like, sucking the blood out, the venom out of her. I was like, is she okay? She's not okay, but oh, good Lord.
Yeah, so then we wake up in the hospital. Bella's like, I will die if anything happens to you.
I wrote codependency after 2 months? Question mark, question mark. Wait till new moon.
Oh my gosh. It's just foreshadowing the
Yeah, exactly.
angsty
And then, like, the mom,
melodrama.
like, recapping the story to her. She was like, you fell down a flight of stairs and out a window.
And then you said,
I was like, what window is at the bottom of a flight of stairs?
it's like a slapstick comedy. You fell down a flight of stairs. You flew out a window. You landed in the bed of a truck, which was like filled with feathers, and like you set yourself on fire and just like drove off a cliff.
You somehow managed to sever your femoral artery. Like, that part, like, when he was like, oh no, her femoral artery has been severed. She's bleeding out. I'm like, bro.
What happened about like
after,
the huge bite mark on her wrist? Like,
yeah.
No mention of that. Like,
oh yeah, the bite. Yeah, nobody talks about that. And then you landed in a way where it looks like you bit your own arm. Like,
you chomped on your own arm when you landed. Oh my God.
You were in so much pain, you bit your own arm just to distract yourself. Oh, man.
And then they go to prom, and it's like really, there's like 12 people there.
They're all having a great time, though.
They are having a great time. And she's like, please turn me into a vampire right here in the middle of everything.
Yeah, so I can start screaming in absolute agony.
So I can go cross-eyed again.
Really romantic.
Think that I'm like orgasming in the middle of prom. And then we see Victoria's just like chilling in a building next to the prom.
Looking hot. Gorgeous with her fur.
And she's mad as hell, but it doesn't matter because she's like, doesn't really do anything until Eclipse.
Right, yeah.
And that's Twilight.
And that's it. Holy shit. That movie.
Right. I'm furious right now. I'm like
my blood pressure's up. My Apple Watch is like, are you
palms,
exercising? Yeah.
Palms are clammy. I don't think we can do the whole saga because I just can't put myself through this.
No, I was gonna say, let's just stop at Twilight.
We can just say the rest of the series is just as bad. I do wish that at some point we could have talked about Renesmee.
The fact that you even brought that up is giving me hives.
Like, CGI baby face. Like, why? Why was that choice made? But we're sticking to Twilight, so we won't go there. Do you have any
elements of grooming in that movie? Because, like, Jacob imprints on her. Jacob was cool right up until he imprinted on.
No, he wasn't cool. He also...
Oh, yeah, he gets really, like, possessive.
Yeah, he, like, threatens to, like, kill her himself because she's, like, wants to be with Edward. And, like, it's just, like, why can't people just, like, move on? Like...
Like, bro, like, I get it. People are cool. Like, she's your friend, and, like, she's awesome, and, like, you love her, whatever. Like, she's not that awesome, though. Like, she is very...
she has no personality. She's just a vessel that things happen to, and that, like, these two characters...
she is a husk.
She is. Like, there's nothing about her that's, like, inherently enthralling or, like, interesting.
Yeah.
And they don't even try to make her interesting, which is, like, what's so infuriating about how everybody's acting about her. Like,
they should have cast Anna Kendrick as Bella, and the movie would have been a million times better.
Because then she could at least, like, make being awkward interesting.
Yeah.
Like, make being awkward endearing.
I mean, like we said, like, Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson are good actors. Like, yes. Don't get me wrong. It was just bad. Like, I get it, but she has definitely redeemed herself as an actress over the years since Twilight wrapped up. But
why do you think this movie, like why do you think people hate it so much? Like, despite the, obvious toxic traits, why do you think it's such a target for, like, things like this where people just tear it to shreds?
I mean, I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying about how people make fun of things that girls like.
Mm. If
you think back to, like, those like corny, like, romance novels, like, with the really dramatic, like, covers where it's like a shirtless man, he's got, like, hair down to his ass, like
Jacob at the very end with the, like, light beams coming through the forest.
Yeah, like, and and like this like sexy woman fawning over him, whatever. Like, I think because we live in like the patriarchy, because we live in like a patriarchal society, like women are, you know, immediately like brandished more emotional. So like anything that like is written for women that incites like emotion and like, or is supposed to incite emotion, like, oh, a love story, give me a fucking break. Like The Notebook, like people make fun of The Notebook too. I mean, granted, like there are problematic things about all of these like movies, but people make fun of The Notebook, people make fun of, you know, Titanic. People make fun of all of these movies that like women are typically more attracted to, but at the same time they market these things, they like try, it's like cyclical, like they make fun of it, but at the same time they like keep creating the same stuff for women to be attracted to, and then they're like, ha ha ha, you're stupid for liking this, but we're gonna make more of this shit for you to like, and then we're gonna make fun of you, and then we're gonna keep like just like pounding it into you that you're stupid for liking like romance, and you're stupid for liking, you know, drama, you're stupid for liking these things, or you're dumb or silly or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you keep feeding this shit to us.
Yeah.
But the moment something like, you know, that boys and girls or just boys can enjoy, like Harry Potter, like Lord of the Rings, like Star Wars.
I'd say like toxic things tailored towards men. So like James
Trash.
Bond, super rapey.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Like,
he's like this sex symbol.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like
super badass and cool and nobody complains about it.
Exactly.
If it was like a female agent who like had a different guy every movie,
she'd be a slut.
Yeah. I think all of the criticism we spent like 2.5 hours like ripping on this movie.
We've been raging about this movie longer than the movie itself.
Yes. We've had a lot of things to say. Like we've been making fun of this movie and beating this dead horse, but it's all valid. But at the end of the day, like it's still just a silly movie, and like if you like Twilight, I would beg to know why, but like you're not stupid and you're not dumb because you like something that like makes you fantasize about something. You know, I think at the end of the day, this movie is supposed to be kind of like a fantasy. It's got a lot of problematic elements because it's tailored towards teenage girls, but like, you know, women fantasize about being, you know, saved by men all the time. It's not like that's a thing. Like,
yeah,
people think about that. That's not inherently problematic. People want to be obsessed over, but to a healthy extent. Like, I want somebody to care about me, and I want somebody to like care about my well-being, but not to the point where they are staring at me sleeping and breaking into my house to watch me sleep and following me,
yeah,
like, hanging out with my friends.
And to that point, the fact of the matter that like somebody could watch this movie and from there have a strong, I guess, like bare bones plot point, like for 50 Shades of Grey, I mean, all the elements are there. It's like where if you just like, you know, literally kind of like what E.L. James did was just like flip the script and be like, okay, he's not a vampire. He's just like a super creepy, wealthy businessman. And
he's just Batman.
He's just Batman. And this girl is like basically the same person, but they cast Dakota Johnson instead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that like they were able to derive something like that from a teenage book series disturbs me. I think we need to talk a little bit, like, in general, like, not necessarily on this podcast, but, like, the conversation about 50 Shades of Grey should also be, like, pointed back to, like, how the fuck did she get this from Twilight? Oh, I see. Because Edward stalked her. Edward, like, treated her like this. She reacted like that. Jacob said this. Mike said that. Whatever. Like, how these people behave as teenagers is, like, almost, like, translated into how they would behave as adults in 50 Shades of Grey.
I mean, I was, like we said, I was into this when I was, like, 12, and I dated an Edward. I dated a Jacob, like, not like their names were Edward and Jacob. I mean, that they acted that way. And at the time, it was, like, super frustrating for me. I was like, this is really annoying. But I thought that that's, like, that was supposed to be how they acted and treated me, because that's how it was portrayed in these things, in these movies and stuff that I liked. So it does have like real world, maybe I'm stupid because that's like, I should have been smarter or something, but like, I don't think that's the case. I think like a lot of girls go into relationships thinking that's okay.
No, I mean, you're not dumb for not knowing better, because like, as I said before, this sort of stuff is just permeated into pop culture and into, what young girls and young people consume.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, and we're going to watch other movies. Like, we were talking about movies that I hadn't seen that you hadn't seen the other night. And like, there are some movies in there that I've seen that also have similar, like, toxic elements to it as far as relationships are concerned.
Yeah.
And how like men treat women, or how like women treat themselves, or how women treat each other. I'm over it at this point. I'm like, let's just have a fun movie, fun book series, fun whatever, where people are just nice and respectful to each other, and like the problems that they have don't turn into like trauma for the characters, and therefore like normalize it for the people watching.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, we've been on a ride. Do you have any other last thoughts that we haven't covered?
I think the movie, if you haven't seen it, first of all, you just got the whole thing spoiled for you. Secondly, it's worth a miss. Just like, if you want to know what we're talking about, you're better off reading the book, because it'll give you more context, and it's probably ever so slightly better.
Yeah.
Than the film, because the film's trash. But my last piece of advice is listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The
soundtrack, if you want to get anything out of the movie, the soundtrack is bomb. Well, we made it through. Thank you as always for watching this movie and talking to me about this movie, and hopefully we'll keep going.
Yes, for whatever is to come, because I have no idea. Hopefully something less problematic, but who knows? Oh, okay.
Just a different direction, I'll say that.
Oh no. Okay. Well, can't wait then.
Yep. All right. I will see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.